Right.
And Sheriff, the priest from Harrison, Belle, or Independence, or Pleasantville.
My earliest remembrance of a priest was Father Whitehead, who had a church in Springfield for years.
Was this when you were a boy?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sure that he was priest when I was confirmed.
Weren't you one of the first acolytes?
I was, well,
The acolyte.
recent times there might have been an acolyte back in the early 1900s, but I was an acolyte.
He was the acolyte.
Very little training.
Well,
it was enjoyable.
yeah. Well, it sounds like, the way you talk about it, it sounds like that even though it was small and you didn't have frequent services, that there was a good feeling about the church, and that people who were part of this church family really enjoyed the times when they could get together, and the place has meant a lot. It sounds like it still means a lot.
It does.
Well, I do appreciate you taking handling in this building. Did you say that this was boxcar wood?
That's what I understand it to. They were made out of boxcars. And that's the reason the ones in front don't match. They're not the same type of boxcars.
That part was built a little later than
Yes.
the original one.
I think Mr. Campbell, as I was saying a moment ago, told me at one time that he came here in the spring of 1868 with his family and crossed the Missouri River on ice after Order Number 11 was withdrawn. And so he saw this church from its founding, and he confirmed that this was from boxcars, and also that the addition to the north where the altar is was built about 1909.
And that would be, of course, that would be different wood. Well, that's one of the things that's most interesting to me, and as a newcomer to this church, having only been here about 4 or 5 years, that it's the appearance of it is really very striking. I think you also were saying that the floors have changed, that these are not the original floors, that they were...
Yes, I remember the pews. There was quite a...
Pews are different.
Quite an argument in the church when the new pews were instigated. You can see from the dates, from the memorials of the pews about when the pews were put in. The old pews were given to the church from the church back east, and so we felt obligated to give them away when we got new ones. So we gave them to, I think, Camden.
There's a church down there.
They were high, Victorian design, stained walnut.
Rather wobbly, too.
Wobbly.
And then they had no kneelers, and everybody had to have their own kneelers.
Oh.
And we usually, upholstered the kneelers with carpet. And but then the kneelers were all different. And the original floors were wide pine planks. They got to be terribly uneven and irregular, and we were afraid people would fall.
Creaky, too.
Creaky. You're saying it's hard to clean.
Yes, try to knock them in.
So despite the ruining of the historical interior, the new pews have been very comfortable, and the floors have been much warmer and much safer.
Yeah, I think also that the sconces on the side are also a change. There used to be...
well, they're to cover up the place where the old gas lights were.
There were gas lights in there.
When I was a boy, that was the only light we had. It wasn't, of course, they had been wired with electricity. They weren't gas. But they originally had been gas. And they had frosted bulbs and then shades. And there were 2 on each side. And 2 by the altar. So there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them. And
Well, right up there back of the choir. So
and 1 past the choir. I guess there were 8. And that was the only light we had. We then put in these lights on the ceiling now, which I've never really liked that well. But they do like the church better than the old ones did. The old ones gave a lot of glare.
Did they? Well, the stained glass is another feature, I think, is the stained glass. It's not as spectacular as in some of the bigger Episcopal churches, but it has a quality about it, a soothing quality, at least for me. And I find it very interesting. I think you were saying, Dr. Belle, that most of this is the original that was in the building.
I think so. Certainly the triangular pieces at the top were never broken. And some of the bottom paints were broken out and had to be replaced, but the glass people did a beautiful job of matching it. but most of it probably is original. The ones back of the organ are new because they were just plain glass originally, and they were put in as memorials. The ones over the door are original, and the one over the altar has been reworked, unfortunately, somewhat.
Yes. Yeah, well, you can tell what's happened. It's interesting that I think Mr. Hopcroft, who has fixed our glass for us, tells me that that's really a kind of painted glass that they use a special paint on and then fire it in a kiln. And they can do some of that, but some of it they don't have the, they have to reproduce the patterns. And, and he's been able to do a little of that, but I think the blank pieces behind the altar are places where they just haven't been able to do that.
We, in recent years have put storm windows on the outside, which in a way cuts down the luster of the windows, but it's made it certainly warmer and protected the windows from flying baseballs, birds and such things like that.
Well, I think they're interesting. And, I know we tried to pick up the motif of the stained glass, especially the triangle on the top, and use it on the needlepoint needlers that the women made a couple of years ago.
We appreciate the comments from Mrs. Marone and Dr. Belle. The situation created by Lee Summit's growth was painful. Not so much whether to grow or not, that was out of one's hands, but how to grow. The same situation faced St. Paul's. After 30 years of steady increase with ups and downs, trials, and truly joyous moments, St. Paul seems to find itself to be very much like it was almost 100 years ago, in one very particular way. St. Paul's still represents the need of people for a church. Much as the first members needed a church building of their very own, a place secure against the harshness of frontier life, so today St. Paul's is a refuge, a sanctuary, not for escape, but to recharge, to renew, to sustain the lives of the people. A place apart from the world, yet set right in the middle of it. A place for fellowship. A place for study and learning. A place for our children and our future. A place to rever our heritage. A place of reverence. A place of joy. A place where God's people come to be with their God. A firmly established place, strong and well built with a solid foundation. Only now it's not the building. It's the people gathered by God's Holy Spirit, welded into a family by His love. It's the people that are St. Paul's, its strength, its endurance, its beauty.